Welcome to Softball City, an elimination playoff game. A great shot from the drone. You can see the ocean in the background. Some mountains. Picturesque. And Canada coming off a heartbreaking game earlier today where they fell 2-1 in 8 innings to Triple Crown Colorado, now in a must-win scenario against Mexico if they are to play tomorrow. Mexico got off to a slow start in their elimination playoff game earlier today, Amanda, but then rallied to beat Australia. So these teams hook up for the second time in the tournament, and there's a look at the women and gentlemen that will work the game tonight around the diamond. 13-2 was the final when they met, but it really didn't tell the story, did it?
No, it didn't, and that's what we've been saying throughout the evening is the way these teams have been hitting the ball. Their hit counts are almost very similar in a lot of the cases, and that's really where these games are staying so close in that sense, and it's really important for both teams to clutch up when they can and they have the opportunity so they don't let that slip by. And very often you only get one chance at it, and I think Canada's going to do well, and excited to see if Mexico again can get those hits on the board.
Well, that game was 2-1 until the top of the sixth, and Canada trailed 2-1. And then they exploded for 7 in the sixth. And Canada has had a tough time at the plate in their last game. They only had one hit. Is Kelsey Harshman, who has 12 in the tournament. And facing for a second time in the tournament, Lindsay Lopez, the standout at the University of Washington. She hails from Santan Valley, Arizona. Harshman in the air, playable. And the catch is made for out number 1. And it's been a rare time as Harshman looking for her first hit of the day as she flies out to Alyssa Reboledo to open this very crucial game, in Canada in need of getting their bats going again. Erica Polidori had their only hit. They were no hit. Matter of fact, they only had one base runner against Triple Crown Colorado. Prior to the base runner being placed in an extra inning, you start with a runner at second in extra innings in women's international softball. And Erica Polidori, with Canada's only hit, a double to the fence in left that gave Canada a 1-0 lead, but Hannah Gamble came back with 2 out and runners at second and third and poked at the left, and Triple Crown Colorado won the game as Emma Ensminger is the batter. Emma is from Victoria, British Columbia. She's 7 for 21 in the Canada Cup, according to the numbers that I have in front of me. And another high fly, this time Savannah Wysocki ranges over, and a good beginning for Lindsay Lopez, who was roughed up a little by Canada in that game earlier in the week.
Yeah, she was, and she has 2 important outs here. Kind of seeing the rhythm of Kelsey and Emma, 1 and 2 for Canada. If they don't get on, the team tends to struggle a little bit. Janet's been struggling a little bit at the plate as well. So the importance of your 1 and 2 getting on is very important. And Lindsay Lopez does a great job. Again, you don't need to strike them out. You just need to get them out. And those are quality hacks, but in the end, they're outs.
Janet Leung, 10 hits in the tournament. She's had a terrific week. Solis, a great start for Mexico. 1, 2, 3 in the top of the first. Mexico comes to bat when we return in this elimination game at the Canada Cup. Sarah Groenewegen given the ball in this elimination game for Canada. She's gotten stronger and stronger. The Canadian ace who took last year off after helping Canada win a bronze medal at the 2021 Summer Olympics. This is her home park. This is where she grew up. And in her last outing, she was excellent against Team Israel. She tossed a perfect 4 innings, and they are going to need her at her best tonight, as Canada right now struggling a little bit to score. And they went down 1-2-3 in the top of the first. Canada, without Sarah Groenewegen, did not make it to Sunday last year. They lost in an elimination game to Chinese Taipei. On the ground, Emma Ensminger, and Savannah Wysocki is retired on the first pitch.
We see Team Mexico being aggressive here, which I like. First pitch of their offensive at-bats, putting the ball in play.
Marlene Espinoza, who had only 1 hit prior to the game against Australia earlier today, but then had 3 hits in that game, and she's a threat to bunt. This is a Mexico team that's very different than the one that faced Canada for the Olympic bronze medal when they met in Tokyo 2 summers ago. They've had a massive turnover. Very few Olympians are left from that team. Espinoza slaps it into left for the game's first hit, and she remains hot. 1 hit, Amanda, all week, and then made an out in her first at-bat against Millie Fidge of Australia. And now she has 4 straight hits, and will somebody finally pitch to this woman? Jillian Solis. She has been walked in this tournament 7 times in a row in the last 2 games. High fly, it carries, and Polidori tracks it down off Solis, who has had a great Canada Cup, 11 hits in 18 official at-bats, 3 home runs, 7 runs batted in.
I think that's why they don't want to pitch to her, is she gets up there and she makes something happen. And she took that ball deep, and that's great. The runner on first unfortunately didn't tag and take that extra base. And if she would have, then that would have been a productive out, exactly what Team Mexico needs and what she does best.
Lena Reboledo is the left fielder. She wears number 99. She's from Riverside, California, and she was very involved in the come-from-behind victory against Team Australia earlier this afternoon. She laid down a sacrifice bunt with Australia leading 2-0 in the third. 2 consecutive throwing errors allowed 2 Mexico runs to score. Kiana Estrada drove her home from third, and Mexico took the game over on their way to play in this elimination game, as we're down to 6 teams left in the hunt for the title. Earlier this evening, Japan needed all 7 innings, and I say that with sincerity. It's the first time a team has required them to play all 7, and Triple Crown Colorado loses to Japan, who's set to play tomorrow night at 6 in the title game. Triple Crown Colorado now awaits people in the bottom side of the bracket to come back and see who they'll face tomorrow afternoon. An excellent changeup from Sarah Groenwagen. Gives up a hit, but this pitch freezes Lena Reboledo. Through 1. Softball City on a beautiful Saturday night. Looking for the game's first run, and didn't mention it while she was out there defensively, but Larissa Franklin is in center field. Missed the majority of the tournament due to an injury she suffered in an exhibition game here. Not in Nashville, but here in a couple of Team Canada exhibition games. One was against Japan that they lost 4-0 a week ago tonight. So Franklin returning slowly as a designated player. And they're delighted to have the 30-year-old from Maple Ridge back. She's 2 for 6 so far in the tournament. An Olympic bronze medalist. Really critical to have her for Canada, not just in this tournament, but in the upcoming World Cup qualifying stage tournament that starts July 22nd in Butrios, Italy, which will also be the site of next year's World Cup. And a quality swing by Larissa Franklin. She's been part of the national team since 2011. She hails from Maple Ridge, 5 for 15, 3 runs batted in at last year's World Games. She was 4 for 16 with 3 runs batted in at the Summer Olympic Games. All 3 of those runs batted in came against, well, Amanda, you might know. Sorry.
And, when you're at the Olympics, you know everything about the players you're playing, and playing for Team Italy facing Canada probably was our worst game, to be honest, and Franklin's a threat. She is a threat, and that's all I can say, really. A great athlete offensively and defensively, So it's great to see her back out here for Canada, but more importantly, so she's starting to get in that rhythm for that upcoming group staging qualifier. And she can kind of get her reps in now that maybe she missed over the last couple days and be that great athlete, be that Olympian, and really, most importantly, I think, lead this Canada team when they need it the most.
She's played in 3 official world championships because the World Games is not an official world championship. Last summer is as close as you can get, but it's not a WBSC World Cup, which will be played next year. She did play in 2014, 2016 here in Surrey, and you would have faced her as well in a world championship in Chiba, Japan, where Canada won a bronze medal in 2018. Through the hole, and a hit for Larissa Franklin, Canada's first of the evening in this elimination game.
Yeah, Mexico's defense is pitched up the middle a little bit. That ball's in that awkward spot for a second baseman to have to kind of drop, step back, and really take the perfect angle to be able to get an out at first. And so Franklin puts that in a good spot, and she's got the speed. Maybe not her best with her ankle, but she's on the bases, and she's a threat now.
Polidori swinging away. That's going to find Green. Franklin, very aggressive. And Canada, back-to-back hits. They now have more hits in this game than they had against Triple Crown Colorado in their 2-1 8-inning loss this afternoon. And it's good news for Canada. Well, Larissa Franklin's ankle looks fine.
I'm sure that felt good for her, too, and I'm thinking that from a player's perspective that has been hurt, when you can kind of unleash and get going from first to third and feel good, that's a good feeling. That's some positive thoughts for her.
So runners at the corner, no one out. For 21-year-old Surrey, BC product, and so many Canadian players from right here, Abbotsford, Cloverdale, Delta, all in and around this Vancouver area. Jones has a base hit, and Canada on the board. They lead it 1-0, and another run batted in for Kiana Jones as she delivers.
And she delivers in the best way. That's the absolute best spot, best bat angle you can get on that pitch. Again, not looking to overpower the ball or hit it over the fence, but just hit it solid at the right angle. And then your runners are going to do the rest of the work, and they did.
3 straight hits off Lindsay Lopez, who had some trouble earlier this week against Canada, and now Zoe Hicks got off to a marvelous start this week, has tailed off a little bit. 7 for 25 for the relative newcomer, 25-year-old Zoe Hicks from Boissevain, Manitoba. Played collegiately at Louisiana Tech. Change up in the air. Polidori will tag. Gets the wave and a sacrifice run batted in for Zoe Hicks, and Canada increases their lead to 2-0. And with a runner at third, your job is to drive that runner in, and that's exactly what Zoe Hicks did, and Canada off to a 2-0 lead against Mexico. On the other diamond, we'll keep you abreast. There's another elimination game going on between Italy and Israel. 9-2 was the final score when they met for the first time. Israel, who's actually really been, for me at least, a pleasant surprise, needed 3 extra innings to beat 0-7 Greece, 10-9 earlier today. So we'll try to keep you on top of that game as Grace Mesmer has had a good week. She's from nearby Cloverdale. One of the communities that's playing host to this tournament in other divisions, 2 U19 divisions, there's 2 U17 divisions, so this is a large tournament. Besides this, Mesmer flares it to right. And Wysocki, the speedy outfielder, over to track it down for out number 2. So Canada with 3 straight hits. Kiana Jones drives in a run, and so does Zoe Hicks with a sacrifice fly. As Natalie Weidman tries to make her way on a sacrifice bunt attempt. 2 down, Canada with 3 hits and 2 runs off of University of Washington standout Lindsay Lopez, who played last year in this tournament, but did so for Triple Crown Colorado. And Natalie Weidman looking for her second hit of the Canada Cup. She is more known for her defense than her offense. Behind the plate, late on that drop ball from Lopez. Lindsay Lopez at school pitched in the College World Series, 8 1/3 innings, in fact, for Heather Tarr's University of Washington. She was the number 2 pitcher on the staff, went 13-4 during the course of the season, and has had, I would suggest, Amanda, her ups and downs this week.
Yeah, I think a lot of athletes we've seen have kind of been up and down, exactly like you said. And is this tournament important? Yes, it's important to lock in and kind of push your limits, I guess, and be able to make those up and downs a steady line at a peak level. And so that's where they need to find adjustments, notice adjustments, be able to make those adjustments. And again, no downs and only be up.
Weidman and Lopez. And you could tell she was a little angry. She took care of it and then fired it over to first as Canada get to Lindsay Lopez for 3 hits and 2 runs as they've jumped into a 2-0 lead on playoff Saturday night at the Canada Cup. Canada strikes first. They score 2 in the top of the second. Well, the cousin crew is here. Not the biggest crowd of the week for Canada. We hope for larger crowds, and if you're the organizers, I know who you want to win this game. You want the home country playing on Championship Sunday. Japan's in the final. We know that. They are a perfect 9-0 here this week. Canada with a record of 5-3 overall. Mexico 3-5 after beating Australia. They were an out away from being in the top 4 instead of 6th in quite a final game of the round robin last night. Groenewegen reaches up, and Kiana Estrada, the 19-year-old product of the University of Arkansas, is retired for out number 1. Madeline Ruffin, the batter, back. She was in the outfield earlier today, but she's, as she customarily has been this week, the designated player. Madeline Ruffin. Looking to start things off positively and had a good rip at that pitch. Ruffin, 4 hits in the tournament, batting .235 here this week. And Sarah Groenewegen trying to get into a groove. She could not have pitched better than she did against Israel, but that's Israel. And again, I don't want to take anything away. They've been a pretty impressive team as they try to continue to build their program with a very young team here. Playing Italy right now. Change up, grounded foul. Pass Zoe Hicks over at first base.
And we've mentioned before, Peter, about reps and how getting in there and getting prepared is important. And so with Sarah facing Greece or Israel and coming in, there's a different sense of her just throwing bullpen. She started off a little rough in this tournament, but just getting on the mound with a batter that's not your own teammate, we saw her throw really well. And again, just her leading up and building up and getting out of maybe a little funk that she had earlier in the tournament. And that's good because here she is throwing well, and if they win this game, then she'll be on a good little rhythm, little rally leading into the championship Sunday.
Well, they need a great outing from her. They had a terrific pitching performance earlier today from Dawn Bodrug, and I'd add Morgan Rackle. Those 3, Canada's top pitchers. They have a big staff here, but they're not all going to move on. They're not all on the Canada roster for the upcoming World Cup stage qualifier. As that changeup gets away, and Groenewegen, been a lot of activity on this field again today. This is game 5 of the day here, as she faces catcher Alexia Lopez. 2 down. And Lopez really had a quality swing at that offering from Sarah Groenewegen, a Pan American Game gold medalist through the game of her life in the 2015 final against the United States when she was very young. An 8-inning masterpiece in Ajax, Ontario. Performed very well ever since in key competitions. Did well at the Olympics. And the first base umpire after the check from Natalie Weidman says she did not go around. Lopez is from Eastvale, California, coming off her first year at Cal State Fullerton, which is a school in Anaheim or just outside. Popped in the air, and it's going to make its way into the stands. The weather right now is about as good for this game as you could ever have. Just a little hint of cool in the air. A very warm day, got up to around 28 degrees at one point. Some cloud cover saved us in what we call in our tent here the Easy Bake Oven in that 6 o'clock slot. And Sarah Groenwagen getting into a groove. That's her third strikeout already tonight. And she's got a smile on her face. And that's always good news for Canada. They lead it 2-0 in this elimination game, trying to make their way to Championship Sunday at the Canada Cup. Kelsey Harshman looking for her first hit of the day. She had 12 hits during the course of the round robin. Had 2 home runs in a game against Israel. And for a while, looked like it was next to impossible to get her out. That changed a little bit, obviously, against Japan yesterday. And Canada only had 1 hit, period. She won't go much longer without one, and she just delivered. An extra base hit. Is she coming to third? And she is safe. And there's that obstruction again. A triple for Kelsey Harshman.
Yeah, this is a great job getting the ball down the line again, hitting it where it's pitched, so we're not pulling or rolling over. She puts her wheels on, going for third. And we see Emily over there at third getting that leg down, causing it to be obstruction, which is if you don't have the ball yet, you cannot obstruct the base in any way from the runner. And I think that's the right call because there was no place that Harshman was able to put her foot in.
See, that's very different to me than the play that we saw yesterday where, and it turned into, and we're not going to go over it again, but she was there planted waiting. That's different if you're on the play that was controversial yesterday where a shortstop moved over to get a throw from the catcher, and this is a base hit. And a run-scoring base hit for Emma Ensminger in the top of the Canadian order. And when they're in fine stead, good things happen. And Canada ups its lead to 3-0.
Lopez throws an outside pitch there, and I've been repetitive on this, hitting the ball where it's pitched, but that's crucial because if you try to pull that outside pitch and take it up the middle or drive it to left field, you're not going to have the power behind it and most likely roll over it. So if you wait late on that outside pitch that we see Emma doing here, it's a solid, it's a strong hit, and that's what you're looking for when you're waiting and trying to hit the ball where it's pitched, and that's a great job. And a lot of these Canada hitters have been doing that very, very well, and we're seeing them succeed with that.
Janet Leung, the batter, she grounded out to Jillian Sellis her first time. Her opposing shortstop is Canada, a triple and a run-scoring single off the bat of Emma Ensminger from Victoria, a spectacular place if you've never been. Leung is from Mississauga, Ontario, a suburb of Toronto. Might spend a little time there myself in the summertime. Not a lot this summer, I might add. Been a very busy one, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Pitch from Lindsay Lopez as Canada's gotten once again to the University of Washington standout out of Santan Valley, Arizona for 5 hits and 3 runs. And not surprising that Racy Miranda is up throwing, and that's a base hit. Ensminger, a wide turn, the throw not in time. And Canada, they say hitting is contagious, Amanda, and it has been tonight after a game where Canada didn't have a hit until the extra inning against Triple Crown Colorado this afternoon.
And the way they're running, they're mad about that. Leung doesn't have quite a solid hit here, and she kind of checks swings and doesn't finish her swing or even able to extend her wrist through it. It's an efficient hit, but the base running is what's really catching my eye here. Canada's being aggressive.
Larissa Franklin started the second. A 2-run second for Canada with a hit. She's in center field tonight, which is great news for Canada to have the longtime veteran and Olympic bronze medalist healthy enough after turning an ankle. This might get a run home. Not deep enough, and it would have been trouble for Emma Ensminger as Lena Reboledo came in. Too shallow. And an out as Larissa Franklin is retired for the first out of the inning. And here comes one of the Mexican coaches, Jorge Araujo. They think they call him George. And are we going to see Racy Miranda? Yep. Always wanted to go out there myself and give it the tap on one of the arms saying, I want somebody from the pen.
It just seems so powerful. No matter what you do, hey, 2 taps on the wrist.
So 1 out, Canada with 3 consecutive hits to add to their lead. It's 3-0 in a must-win game. And Racy Miranda will make her way into the game. And while she does, when you've called 5 straight games, I'll take a quick breather and be back in just a second or two as the Cal State Fullerton product gets ready to enter the game. Racy Miranda played at Cal State Fullerton this past season, but thanks to the sleuth, Amanda Fama, she has found out through her connections that Racy has entered the transfer portal, and she's on her way to the University of Utah, a team that qualified for the College World Series. That transfer portal is a busy place. I mentioned it earlier. It's hard to stay on top of all of it. She has been busy. 23 innings and a good start, and Canada's Janet Leung wastes little time on a first and third with one out, racing to second after her 11th hit of the tournament for a base hit. Kelsey Harshman started the inning with a triple. Emma Ensminger scored her on a single to right, and then Leung chopped one or blooped one into the outfield for 3 straight hits before Larissa Franklin flew out. And Racy Miranda has not only been busy in the tournament, she's had a busy day. She pitched all 7 innings in the elimination playoff win earlier today against Australia's development team, and this eats up Jillian Solis. Janet Leung on her way, slides in safely. And Erica Polidori heating up at a good time. She has 2 more runs batted in, and it is 5-0 Canada. And you, as a longtime shortstop, Jillian Solis has not looked awkward very many times over there this week. Didn't seem like she read that off the bat very well.
She didn't, and the balls hit hard, but that's what we do as shortstops. And I'm going to say that Julian over there, honestly, is probably getting tired. I don't want to give excuses being elite athletes, but that's what that looked like. They've had a very tough tournament. They've been doing well. They played this afternoon, but kind of
Kiana Jones into the hole. Well, she looks fine there.
And that's the thing is, at this level, you may be exhausted, and you can't allow those balls to eat you up. And I think she realized that. She got over to this ball in the 5-6 hole, made a great throw, and there you go. You make a mistake, learn from it, and come back and get the next play, and she does a great job there.
Well, she has had a sensational Canada Cup, both at short, where she has one of the best arms from shortstop that we've seen this week, and her bat, well, when you get walked intentionally 7 straight times, you've made an impact.
Yeah, you're a threat.
Zoe Hicks would like to bring home one more Canadian run. She did so with a sacrifice fly, her first time up. A 2-run single. Canada with 3 more, and they're up to 7 hits already tonight. Mexico involved in that emotional 9-inning game late last night. Now, they did not play today until 3:30 this afternoon, so they weren't up at the crack of dawn, but I could even see it early in the game against Australia. I felt like it really even took a bite out of them for all kinds of reasons. They had a chance to be in the top 4, and we're going to get an obstruction on catcher Alexia Lopez, which will allow, on catcher's interference, a chance for Zoe Hicks to make her way to first base.
And you can see right here in this slow motion replay, Hicks hits the glove of the catcher, and the glove actually falls off, making it a clear call and resulting in being able to go to first.
Grace Mesmer has had an excellent tournament. She's a 22-year-old key player at Oregon State University in Corvallis, Oregon. Grace in the designated player role in this game. And the change-up from Racy Miranda, who replaced the starter, Lindsay Lopez. She had a really good 3 2/3 innings against Canada on Wednesday. Only gave up 1 run, 6 hits, and then gave way in the game to Lopez, and that's when Canada started chipping away and then finally got to her for that big 7-run 6th inning, where I still have Shania Twain's Let's Go Girls racing in my head, which is the song that has been played by the Canadian artist when Canada has homered here in South Surrey. Right on the edge of White Rock, all part of, in many ways, the greater Vancouver area. Polidori with a 2-run single finds herself at third. Zoe Hicks after the catcher interference at first, and Mesmer got around on that. And Polidori says, I know it was close, but I'd love it if you ripped it again like that before this at-bat is over.
And with Racy Miranda, I was able to actually watch the Mexico-Australia game before, and she had a lot more energy in the circle, and so we can see her kind of a little less animated and pumped up and tired, but she's got to push through.
And Grace Mesmer does deliver a sharp single, and Canada improves its record in the game to 6-0 as Mesmer with another base hit and a run batted in. Well, Canada last night had trouble cashing in their game against Japan. Tonight, the opposite. They are capitalizing on all opportunities as Callum Pilgrim will bat for Natalie Weidman. And with the return of Larissa Franklin to center field, a different role for Pilgrim, and she was outstanding early in this tournament. She has 10 hits, but wasn't a part of the game against Triple Crown Colorado. She is tonight. Mesmer's run batted in off Racy Miranda, and Canada making the most of their 8 hits. They've scored 6 times. And in command in this staying alive on Saturday night game. You are too young to remember Saturday Night Fever. Yeah.
Staying alive.
Yeah, you're not that young, I guess.
No, hey.
You didn't see it when it came out.
I just know the theme songs.
Yes. That was kind of my attempt at, staying alive on a Saturday night. Saturday Night Fever. Pilgrim with a good take.
Like you mentioned, Canada had a little bit of trouble against Japan. They were on fire with their bats and hindering them, Team Japan, of course, and now they're getting back in that rhythm, getting the momentum, which is huge leading into Championship Sunday. And so making your team feel good leading into important games and into 2 weeks for the Cup, the qualifier, the World Cup qualifier is big. And so giving every athlete a chance to get in that bat, kind of feel good. And I was able to talk to some of the Canada girls, and they're saying that's what they're really working on here at the Canada Cup is playing together, playing free, but to work cohesively as a team. And everybody needs to hit, and everybody needs to be ready to hit at any time because like we saw with Franklin, you can be out at any moment.
Well, Canada has batted around in a 4-run third, and the bases are still loaded as this afternoon in a game that could have propelled them into the previous game between Triple Crown, Colorado, and Japan. That game decided the first representative into tomorrow's game, and now Triple Crown, Colorado awaits the other teams to make their way to tomorrow afternoon's semifinal game here, if you will. Tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. And then the winner of that will play Japan for the title. And another pitching change. The youngster, Yanina Trevino, comes in. And give Canada a lot of credit, as they have gotten to both Lopez and Racy Miranda, and have done it after a one-hit performance. They were no-hit and had one base runner in 7 innings this afternoon against Triple Crown Colorado, a team that they'd desperately love to get another shot at if they can advance tonight, and then potentially another game against Italy. And while Yanina Trevino comes in, I'm going to take a quick peek at what's happening with your former group. And it looks like they are still deadlocked after 2 innings of play with Israel. 0-0, but at the end of 2 at the diamond next door. Canada wouldn't mind making short work of this game, and I don't want to. There's a long way to go. Kelsey Harshman tripled and scored to start this inning, and she comes up with the bases loaded. 13 hits now in the tournament. I believe 4 home runs. And Yanina Trevino comes in with a strike. Yanina Trevino making appearance number 4 of this tournament, as Lopez does a nice job behind home plate to potentially save a run. Harshman to really blow the door open. Maybe slam it shut if she can drive something here. 2 balls and a strike to Kelsey Harshman. She doesn't have many games where she goes without a hit, which was the case in 3 appearances this afternoon.
So would you say she's due?
She just tripled. And there's her good eye. And she always wants to hit. Even when she takes a walk, she was hit by a pitch earlier this week and was borderline mad to get on base that way.
Well, that's a competitive athlete, though, and you don't want someone getting into the box feeling like they're on the defense. You want an aggressor in there. Speaking of her getting upset,
Luciano, I wonder if you can show me that again at home plate, the walk. Watch the reaction. She just drove in a run with that walk. Watch her reaction.
And I'll be honest, she wants to get up there and jack a grand slam. That's what that is. She's feeling good. She's on the pitcher. And I would honestly expect nothing less that. You know, you're feeling, again, you're feeling good.
Canada scores a run. That's another run batted in for Harshman. That will be in my memory for a long time. Emma Ensminger. She drove in the first of 5 runs in this third inning, cashing Harshman in after a leadoff triple. Her second at bat of the third inning is Canada. With a chance to really open the floodgates for a second time, but in very different fashion tonight than the 13-2 win, where everything came late. They were down going to the 6th, 2-1 against Mexico. That gets away. We're going to have a play at the plate, and Grace Mesmer is safe. So Canada adds 2 more. It really has been a week of feast or famine for Canada. Although the Japan loss to me was an exception because they had 7 hits and stranded 8 base runners. The only team they have absolutely struggled with is Triple Crown Colorado. They had 1 hit in the round robin game. They had 1 hit in the semifinal of the winner's bracket game this afternoon.
Right, and that's what I'm sure the coaching staff is looking at, that you hit well off Japan. There were a few random, errors that we don't see from Japan defense, but your hit count was still up there. But when you faced TC Colorado, it wasn't, and that was twice. And that's unlike Canada.
Well, you have to obviously give a lot of credit to the pitching staff. Very left-handed oriented, although they have hit a very good University of Washington pitcher, Lindsay Lopez, now twice, and she's left-handed. Ensminger, foul. Canada up 8. Now, they won't tell you this. Is it 10 up after 3 or 10 up after 4? I think it might be 10 up after 3. Or is it 4? It might be 15 up after 3. We did have one of those earlier this week, so it is. It's 10 after 4, 15 after 3, 7 after 5. But Canada could potentially shorten the game, and Ensminger went around. And a 6-run third is finally over for Canada as they appear on their way to playing on Championship Sunday when an 8-team field will be down to 4 teams at the Canada Cup. Canada, 2 in the second, bat around in the third and add 6 more. They've been very opportunistic tonight, something that was missing last night against Japan in their final game of the round robin. Sarah Groenwagen takes the ball. Emily Bracamonte leads things off from the University of Central Michigan is Bracamonte. Now Sarah Groenwagen has given up 1 hit. Struck out 3 so far. In the other elimination game that will determine the 2 winners of this game will play tomorrow at 1 in another elimination game. Japan's into the final, and then Triple Crown Colorado in a semifinal, I'll say, will play the winner of the game going on here, Canada, and the game between Italy and Israel. And Italy has taken a 1-0 lead over to our right on Diamond 2. Israel, in an elimination game not too very long ago, needed 10 innings to beat Greece in a wild one. 10-9 Israel, who finished 3-4 in the round robin.
That's what's been so great is these games have been so unexpected, whether it's extra innings or the underdogs kind of getting on top early in the game. It's been really fun to watch.
Bracamonte pops it up. Thought we might get our first chance to make a play. I'm beside an Olympian shortstop, so we should be okay in here. Although she doesn't have her glove on tonight, and why would she? Groenwagen, there's the change, and it's launched. A hit for Emily Bracamonte, and Mexico wanting to maybe start to chip away at this big lead, no pun intended, for the player who plays for the Chippewas at Central Michigan University. Emily Bracamonte opens the bottom of the third. And what you don't want is you don't want to get to a spot in the game where you maybe give Jillian Solis a chance with a couple of runners on, because you could find yourself back in a game in a hurry if you're Canada. This is Elisa Reboledo, the center fielder. Groenwagen paints the corner and looks a little upset at herself as she takes a big walk around. No pitch clock here. I actually really like the 20-second pitch clock myself.
It puts the pressure on. It's definitely another
a bunt and not an easy out. Did Canada get it? Just. Riley Crane has come into the game for Canada in place of Kelsey Harshman. That wasn't as tidy as maybe you'd like it, but it did get the job done. The sacrifice bunt. Hicks to the new second base player, Riley Crane. Toronto roots, but her hometown is Tucson, Arizona, a dual citizen. And to the top of the Mexico order, and right fielder Savannah Wysocki, who grounded out to Emily Ensminger at third in the bottom of the first. Canada with a huge inning. However, it takes one big inning against to turn the tide.
when we just saw Team Mexico take Team Italy into extra innings, and they're very well capable of producing a large number of runs in a single inning at that. So you can never really count them out.
No, they had 4 last night in that wild round robin finale where they led 4-0. Were 1 out away 2 different times in the bottom of the 7th. And there's a base hit, and it's going to score a run. A double off the bat of Savannah Wysocki. And Mexico will not go down lightly. And they're on the board. And now there seems to be a conversation between pitching coach Christian Conrad, and what they're looking at is, maybe you can explain a little better than I can about what's on that left wrist.
Yeah, Peter, so it's a wristband, and inside of it is a graph for pitches. So you have your vertical and your horizontal charting boxes, and each pitch has its own box. And so you can call out different numbers that coordinate with that box, resulting in what pitch you want to be thrown. So it's easy to get confused, because if it's 3-2-4, sometimes the pitcher sees 4-2-3, and we see it more in softball now to kind of speed up the game, I guess, or take away the aspect of picking pitches. But there is a lot of confusion most of the time, and if your pitcher, your catcher, and your pitching coach are not on the same page, it's not really effective. But it's a good process, and then you can also change those numbers every game, every day. So it gives you 20 different options for a fastball, for a changeup. So it's more difficult for other teams to pick that pitch.
Groenwagen goes back to the change. Canada a little unsettled. You get up big, probably start thinking about ending it early, and the other team punches back. So the single by Bracamonte, and then she was sacrificed and scored on the Wysocki double to left. 1 out, and Espinoza wanting to cut the gap to 8-2. And Sarah, with a look of concentration and a deep breath. Oh, and she wanted that. 2-2 to Marlene Espinoza, who, including this afternoon's win over Australia in their first elimination game, is 4 for her last 4. She won't be 5 for her last 5. She strikes out as Groenwagen bears down. And looks like, and I'm going to guess, Canada's going to be really careful with Solis. She did fly out to left fielder Polidori her first time up, and takes a high change as the Corona, California product. A star at San Diego State, hit .348 there this year. 30 runs batted in, and she is an all-star in this tournament. And one swing away. This would be the unintentional, potentially intentional walk for me right here. I am not giving her anything to hit. She's going to have to chase something that you like, not something she likes. Good change. Although Sarah Groenwagen is a world-class pitcher when she's at the top of her game. So this is a really good matchup. However, I guess from a coaching standpoint, not that I coach, but I don't want people's best players to get me in trouble. And she just delivered another extra base hit and another run batted in.
And sometimes you take that chance. You want your players to push through. You don't want to give them an easy way out. Again, kind of learning opportunities or showing your athletes that you need to do better. Put them up against each other.
Jillian Solis, RBI double. She's up to 8. Her 5th double. She has 3 home runs. And now 12 for 20 in the tournament. And at one point was walked 7 consecutive times in back-to-back games against Italy after homering her first 2 times up last night, and then walked 3 times there, walked 4 more times against Australia today. In fact, you don't see this a lot. They walked her today with a base runner in front of her at first. So not a base open, but said, we're going to put somebody in scoring position because we'll take our chances that way. It somewhat backfired, but it was only because they made 2 throwing errors on a sacrifice bunt, which tied the game.
She's just an absolute threat and a great athlete on top of that. And I think with Canada's 8-2 lead and their offense on fire right now, as a coach, you can take that chance, see what she's got, learn from it. But yeah, she has done so well, and to see how other teams approach her is respect. A lot of the times if maybe there's a runner on second and an open base, you walk them, and that's just a defense strategy. But when there's a runner on first and you get walked, that's respect. People know how well of a hitter you are, and again, in this situation, she comes in and has clutched up twice.
Now, to finish the story, if you're going to make your way to a championship game here and get an entire lineup like Japan or Triple Crown Colorado, you're facing a lot of Jillian Solis types.
Right. So, again, you got to go at her, even with a comfortable 8-1 lead at that. Because the worst that can happen is, okay, she hits a home run, 2 runs, right. But you can't have that mentality. You have to think that every pitch is a 0-0 ball game. Because in the end, like we saw earlier, if you're facing Japan, that's how you have to have, that's what your mentality has to be.
And Lena Reboledo had a quality rep. So Canada still with a big lead, but feel a little less comfortable at 8-2, and still plenty of time left in the game. Solis will take the opportunity. And now Solis, who just drove in. The second Mexico run is at third. Lena Reboledo, Kiana Jones, and she won't get to it. And she's on her way to third. And is going to get waved home and is safe. And it's 8-4. Lena Reboledo over the head of Kiana Jones in right.
She hits this well, and we say she gets burned over there in right field, recovers the ball. She's on her horse to third, and then that bobble. Again, Canada needs to tighten it up. We can't be making these simple errors, these bobbles that now have an extra run on the board because of it. They need to tighten it up a little bit.
At 8-0, we were talking about the possibility of ending a game early. Not anymore. there are times when you can almost feel things coming. And Kiana Estrada is more than capable. And I don't see any activity down the line for Canada. Now, Morgan Rackle was pitching. And a good rip at that pitch. And this is a game again.
I think we've said pretty often this tournament, and again, teams are taking other teams for granted, and you can't at this level.
Estrada Hicks will make the play. Mexico, to their credit, respond after giving up 6 with 4 of their own. And things just got a little tighter on a Saturday night at the Canada Cup.
Did they say the
Canada jumped out big, 8-0. But thanks to some key hits by Bracamonte, Jillian Solis, and a triple, and not a Canadian error officially, but could have been called one, from Lena Reboledo and Janet Leung, hit by youngster Yana Trevino. Now Canada is dealing with their third pitcher. After Mexico just scored 4, do not be surprised if a Miranda or a Lopez potentially comes back into this game.
This is a must-win situation. You want to keep going in this tournament. That's not a bad idea.
And the batter steps in for Team Canada. There's Janet Leung. And it's young backup catcher Madeline McKinnon, who's just 18. Leung hit by the pitch, and this is McKinnon batting in Larissa Franklin's spot in the 5th. And it gets away from Alexia Lopez, and Janet Leung will make her way to second. Well, if nothing else at this tournament, games are never boring, even when you think they might be. And Trevino struggling to find the strike zone. And Canada would love nothing better than to get a run or two back that they just gave up in the bottom of the 3rd. as McKinnon looks to cash in her first run. And Madeline McKinnon, a local favorite. She is walked by Trevino. Eight nothing, 8-4, and Canada with runners at the corner and no one out. And Riley Crane, who took over from Kelsey Harshman at second, hoping to give her a little breather. You might see her again, too. Crane has performed admirably for Canada in this event. She's just 22 years of age, a newcomer to the national women's team. Riley's 2 for 7 in the tournament, and Alexia Lopez might have just saved the 9th run.
That's a great pick. A lot of times you see the catchers get down and bounce it off their chest, and she picks that with their glove, and exactly that, Peter. I think she saved another run.
So Canada does not have a play on running-wise yet for Madeline McKinnon. McKinnon is 0 for 1 in the tournament and now is on base for the first time. And Riley Crane trying to cash in a run. Goes swinging on that pitch. Did she get a piece of it? She must have. Didn't look like she necessarily did, and Jorge Araujo isn't sure either, so he wants a visit. And now we're going to bring all the umpires in to see if anybody saw it a little differently. We'll wait for the umpire behind home plate to see if he shows us the count. It's 2-2 on the board here at Softball City, and still 2-2. McKinnon at first, Leung after being hit by a pitch, down at third. And a strikeout for Yanina Trevino. As Crane hitting in Polidori's spot in the lineup. Kiana Jones drove in a run with the single in Canada's 2-run second inning and was a little late on that cut. So 1 out. Strikeout of Crane, as the changes have come fast and furious. And look who's up. Although it's not one of the two top pitchers who can re-enter. I know they've been in the game. Wouldn't be the first time this week that as a game changed. You know, we saw Sam Ryan start a game for Canada, come back in. Kiana Jones fouls off that pitch. But it's the youngster, not even out of high school, in Alexandra Aguiar. And Mexico in a different position. They are not playing in one of the 3 World Cup qualifiers. No balls, 2 strikes to Kiana Joan, who stays alive. Kiana Trevino represented her country in the 2019 U19 World Cup in California. She was at the World Games. She was in the 2020, but played in 2021 U18 World Cup. The throw to try to get McKinnon, and Solis is there to back it up and prevent that ball from going into the outfield, and Madeline McKinnon has a stolen base.
And that's a tough play to catch that ball, believe me. When there's that first and third play, your view kind of gets obstructed a little bit.
And Trevino, a changeup. Canada looked like they were poised to add more to the run total.
This was a good little battle. And Trevino coming out on top.
Back-to-back strikeouts for Yanina Trevino. McKinnon is going to catch. As they're running for. And Trevino, who's throwing maybe as hard as I've seen her all week long. Not that this sport is all about velocity. It's so much about changing speeds, location, spin. But she looks like she has a little more pop. And has back-to-back strikeouts, trying to keep her team in the game. It looked like it might be all over at 8-0. But then Mexico responded in the bottom of the third with 4 runs. And Canada threatening, but find themselves with 2 outs. And Alexia Lopez framed that pitch. Zoe Hicks has driven in a run tonight. Scored a run. Looks like it's 2 balls and 2 strikes to Zoe Hicks with 2 out and runners in scoring position at second and third.
Big hole in the left center side of the field. If she's able to poke it over there.
Hicks gets around on it, but well foul. And as you can tell, there's activity going on down the line. As this game starts to move into that 2-hour mark, and we're only in the top of the 4th. Gets away, Janet Leung, and Canada will take it. Trevino with a wild pitch that allows Janet Leung to race home from third, and it's 9-4. And Madeline McKinnon able to make her way to third. Boissevain, Manitoba's Zoe Hicks with a full count and drives it off one of the tents here as things starting to wind down with Canada playing. Certainly a much better crowd here at this time of night than we've generally seen in this 8:30 time slot. A lot of friends and family. And Hicks drills it to the gap on her way to second. 10-4, and she has the moose horns going over there.
Yep, finds a gap, runs hard, hesitates a little, but wants that extra base. Slides in hard, and look at that. When she comes up, she's pumped. A little 2-out rally that Canada has. Again, Mexico put 4 on the board last inning. They're going to be looking to score some more.
Well, the wild pitch and then the blast into the gap. Top of the 4th, 14 runs now in the game. So different from that classic 2-1 that was played by Canada in Triple Crown Colorado and winners bracket semifinal. Won by Triple Crown Colorado, 2-1 in 8. Triple Crown Colorado then fell in the winners bracket final against Japan. Japan's into the final. And Triple Crown Colorado knows they'll play at 3:30 tomorrow with hopes of getting a third crack at Japan. It was a perfect 9-0. Lived up to their billing as Olympic gold medal champions. Grace Mesmer, the batter, and another 2-2 count for a Canadian hitter against the third Mexico pitcher, Yanina Trevino. Sat back on the changeup and hit it hard, but foul. Mesmer has a run batted in and a single in the game. That came in the 6-run third. Canada 2 in the second, 6 in the third, 2 more in the fourth. And this one has about 15-10 written all over it. There is another elimination game going on diamond number 2 tonight. Try to keep you up to date on that game. It's between Italy and Israel, and Italy has added to their lead. They're up on Israel by a count now of 2-0. And that game is already in the bottom of the 5th and started later than this game. But when one game is 10-4 and the other game is 2-0, those things happen, as it looks like Alice Nicolini is throwing another quality game for Italy, the 28-year-old. Struck out 6 over there. Walked 1, given up 2 hits. Gasparotto and Vigna both have 2 hits and a run batted in for Italy, who will face the winner if they hang on over there, the winner of this game. They're going to check. They don't have to check. Grace Mesmer thought she was aboard. The home plate umpire said, Grace, you're out. 2 more for Canada. 10-4 on a playoff Saturday night at the Canada Cup. See, you wouldn't like me as a coach.
Why? In what sense?
Well, because I don't like mediocrity. Now that is a little softball fan. Looks like Grandma. Might as well start them and get them involved in this great game early.
Right. You can't start them too early. I started at 4.
Did you?
I did, and my mom snuck me into T-ball when the age limit was 5. And, I mean, breaking that rule is fine. I mean, look where I ended up. I think she'll be okay with herself.
I hope so. Hope that little person grows up to like this game. It's been pretty great. It's been a great week. This game is not going to go down as a softball masterpiece. Canada leading 10-4 against Mexico.
And that's what's tough here. I've been in these situations on both sides. Winning by 8, winning by 9, losing by 8, losing by 9. And it forces you to focus kind of in a different level. This game that we're watching with Canada and Mexico is kind of slow paced. We hear Canada's defense talking a little bit. We don't hear anything from Mexico. It's hard to stay focused as an athlete, and another aspect of being able to have that mental game. It's tough, and everyone kind of loses focus, but you need to be able to stay locked in every single time, no matter what the situation is, no matter if there's a crowd of 40,000 or 10, or if you're at your hometown or not, or you're facing Wayno or facing a 12-year-old. It's difficult.
Well, Morgan Rackle, I think she's had a fine week. Very encouraged, I would think the Canadian coaching staff would be, with a 25-year-old Calgarian, part of the Canada Pan Am Games team, 2019. She's been on the national team for a few years. And this is as well as I've seen her throw. She was in a really tough spot here last year. She was the number 1 pitcher with the graduation of all the Olympians and Sarah Groenwagen taking a year off. But she has been very consistent. And for Canada, as Sarah Groenwagen continues to look for her best form, I can't say enough good things about Rackle and Bodrug.
I agree. Honestly, coming from Team Italy and knowing the Canada pitching staff, the team that they took to Tokyo in 2021 for the 2020 Olympics was elite. It was elite. So Rackle, kind of knowing that, not getting her chance, and then just within a year having to switch over and lead this team is impressive. And I can say that now because I'm not playing, but it is really hard. You almost kind of have to skip a beat from not being at that level to being a starter and carrying a bronze medal titled team. And she's done really well, and I'm very impressed with her throughout this week.
Yeah, she has performed admirably. Emily Bracamonte into the hole. Janet Leung, a high throw, but not too high for Zoe Hicks. And Morgan Rackle gets a happy talking to from head coach Kaylee Rafter, who must be really encouraged. Top of the 5th, Canada by 6, looking to play in the Final 4 of the Canada Cup tomorrow on Championship Sunday. There's still some work to be done. Canada has delivered 9 hits. They've scored 10 times. There's been 1 Mexico error. They've faced 3 different Mexico pitchers, including University of Washington standout Lindsay Lopez, Racy Miranda, who has been at Cal State Fullerton, and thanks to Amanda and her scouting, found out that she is using the transfer portal to go to Utah to try to help them make it to a second straight College World Series. Callum Pilgrim, a mile in the air. Emily Bracamonte takes care of it, and there's 1 out in the 5th. And Kelsey Harshman, I thought there was a chance we might see her get another at-bat tonight.
She wasn't happy with her last one, that's for sure.
Tripled, and in the same inning drew a bases-loaded walk for another run batted in for the 26-year-old from Delta, British Columbia. Canada would love it if she deposited another ball out of the yard. She's done that. I have to double check tonight. My stats aren't exactly the same as the ones we received earlier. I know she had a couple of home runs in the same game. She has 13 hits this week. That's a lot of hits. She batted .579 here last year with 11 hits, so she's even surpassed that total. And it climbs up on Estrada, who does well to handle a bit of a tough hop. Grounds crew has done a sensational job here. It is a lot of work. Tristan Boyd, a newcomer. Kristen, playing for the national women's team for the first time. Has seen limited duty here. It's a big roster for Canada this week, which is awesome. You get a chance to have some of your up-and-comers, have some international experience in a great tournament in your home country. It's interesting. I just took a look at my phone briefly, and Morgan Reimer, who's a 16-year-old pitcher who we saw earlier in the week in this tournament for Canada, this is not the only Canada Cup tournament, according to Twitter, that she is pitching in. She's pitching in another division here, because I'm pretty sure I just saw the fact that it was posted that she's thrown 2 perfect games in another division of this tournament. The 16-year-old, maybe someday star of the national women's team, who is highly touted in not the 2023 class of high school players in North America, but I think it would be next year where she would be the target of a lot of Division I scouts. Is Janet Leung. She probably remembers when she was recruited by Brown University. It's been a little while now for Janet, who played for Canada internationally in the 2013 World Junior in Brampton. So did Sarah Groenwagen. So did Emma Ensminger. I call it the 2013 group for Canada. And they've kind of transitioned from being, youngsters behind older players to now they're in more of a leadership type situation at 28 and 29.
And that's what I really like about international softball. Again, playing with Team Italy, being over there for only a couple years, 6 years, 7 years, watching them and the passion that all these teams have the same thing. You start at that younger age, go through the youth of it, build up, and now you're here representing your country at the highest level of softball. And it's like passionate and something really special, especially if they've worked through the chain.
Yanina Trevino and the Mexico defense does not allow a run. And Mexico comes to bat, trailing by 6 in the bottom of the 5th. When we return, Morgan Rackle pitching for Canada in her second inning of relief tonight. She's had a really solid tournament on the rubber for Canada. A bunt by Alyssa Reboledo and well fielded by Morgan Rackle.
That's tough for a lefty pitcher. They always have to get around the ball when going to first and kind of have a blind throw in a sense. And she does a great job and throws it pretty hard to first and does a great job. Another pitcher that can field her position.
Played at Austin Peay University. And makes a fine defensive play on the bunt attempt by Alyssa Reboledo. Rackle in place of the starter, Sarah Groenwagen. Unfortunately for Morgan, she gave up the hit to Hannah Gamble in relief of Dawn Bodrug this afternoon, but I still really like how she went to work. Bodrug was excellent. And Wysocki obviously thought that new catcher Madeline McKinnon doesn't catch this cleanly, but she did. And Rackle racks up another strikeout. Marlene Espinoza, a hit, struck out her last time up. And delivers another hit. She's had a fine day. I've really liked her defensive work, particularly when she's played the majority of the time, as she is again tonight at second for Marlene. Hitting wasn't coming easy, but she has 5 hits today, 3 in a row this afternoon. Made it 4 for 4 in the first tonight, and now is her second hit of this game.
And I actually got to speak with Espinoza again before the game just for a second. And again, that team, they kept telling me they're tired. They have had a long journey here. But her goal in particular for this tournament and this game as an underdog was just to finish strong and do the best she could, even being so tired. And I think she's done that. She's done well tonight.
Rodas in a perfect spot. Uncatchable. Off the end of the bat, over the head of Grace Mesmer, who's come into the game at third for Emma Ensminger. Janet Leung doesn't get many innings off. And Reboledo, her last time up, tripled and scored on a Canadian bobble as the ball got back into the infield. 2 out. Mexico just batted, and it's to right again, but this time Canada will make the play. Mexico just batted for Jillian Solis in an elimination game down by 6. I don't have an explanation, and I'm not sure you would either. Maybe we'll figure it out. 10-4, Canada going to the top of the 6th in an elimination game at the Canada Cup. (10-4) Canada going to the top of the 6th. They will face, if they hang on, and strange things have happened this week, so it's the old Yogi Berra saying, it's truly never over till it's over. Madeline McKinnon, her second plate appearance. It remains 2-0 Italy leading Israel, and they are in the top of the 7th. On the diamond to our right. And the winner of that game and this game will meet tomorrow at 1 o'clock as an 8-team tournament that happens after 5 consecutive games behind the microphone. Will play one another as this 8-team tournament turns into 4 teams remaining in hopes of winning the Canada Cup. We call it Championship Sunday. We know Japan will play in the final. And if you want to refer to it as a semifinal game, we know that Triple Crown Colorado, who lost in a game to Japan prior to this one, 5-1, will await the winner of the 2 games tonight when they play tomorrow at 1. At this second, it looks like it will be Italy and Canada.
That's a matchup I'm excited to see.
Oh, I bet you are.
It'll be a fun.
Yeah,
It'll be fun in here for us.
Absolutely. And I think it'll be a whale of a game, too. I really do. As they're in the top of the 7th. Marta Gasparotto has just flown out. She has 2 hits and a run batted in the game for Italy. Israel had a wild one earlier today to stay alive against Team Greece. They won 10-9 in 3 extra innings. And they gave the ball tonight, though, against Italy to Peyton Gottschall, pitcher out of the University of Tennessee. Another one here as Riley Crane goes down swinging, and there's 2 out for Canada in the top of the 6th. And Gottschall, according to this box score, has given up 7 hits and 2 runs. As Israel will come to bat to try to stay alive over there. And I have really enjoyed watching Israel this week. Of the teams that finished 5 through 8, I've enjoyed them maybe the most.
I agree. And again, playing them just last year to see how they've grown and really starting to compete, and listening to the stories of the girls and how they're so genuine about the religion and then the passion of being part of that club.
Jones unloads. It is gone. You can have a little passion when you do that.
Mm-hmm. That'll make you feel good.
Surrey's own with another home run this week. She's just 21 years old. And there goes Shania for the first time in a couple of days.
I actually asked Janet Leung about it. I said, how do you guys feel about that song? Because we heard it so many times that night. And they said that it pumps them up. And they knew that the crowd hearing it and that first part that goes off, again, like you mentioned, Shania being a Canadian, they knew not only for themselves, but for the crowd, it would get them more engaged in the game. And I think it's so fitting, and I love it.
Alice Nicolini, another splendid performance for Italy. And I know that will delight you. She is right now throwing a 4-hit shutout. They're 2 outs away. As Zoe Hicks, I love her passion for the sport. She's fired up every time up. Great concentration. Played at the University of Louisiana, then strutted her stuff in the Dutch League, where she hit .379. Swings it really well. And the lone player on this Canadian roster from the province of Manitoba. And she has a couple of hits tonight.
Just a competitor is what I've noticed, being able to kind of focus on these athletes a little more. We were just talking about that, actually, how I've enjoyed it just as much. And she's a competitor, an elite competitor, and plays 100% no matter what the score is. And that's what you want as someone that is going to be leading this team.
Well, 25 years old, I think she went around. And you see the disappointment of a competitor. Canada, a solo shot by Kiana Jones. Canada leads 11-4. And they're 3 outs away from a semifinal date, or at least a date on Championship Sunday at the Canada Cup. Italy has closed out Israel. Congratulations to Israel on their finish here. 3-4 in the round robin, and gave Italy an excellent battle tonight, but could not get to 28-year-old veteran Alice Nicolini, who threw a complete game 4-hit shutout to outduel Peyton Gottschall, the future of Israel's pitching staff. And Team Israel made up of American-born players with Jewish heritage. And I like what they're building there. Nikki Palmer did an excellent job. I know that we heard from 3-time U.S. Olympic gold medalist Leah O'Brien Amico, who was kind enough to stop by the other night on our broadcast for a couple of innings. That was a treat. And she is very involved with their U18 and U19 program, which is so important, the feeding ground to your national team. So they have good people there.
And they're building a culture of their own, which is so important when you're representing a country at that. And they've got something really good going, and it's going to be interesting and great to see what they can do in the next year or two.
I don't think there'll be a European championship next year with the World Cup. Potentially, maybe. I haven't looked that far into my calendar, but when it returns in 2025, Israel will be an interesting group in that event. If this contingent of players stays on, gets older, stays committed, I could see some real growth there.
And that's the thing, I think, with national teams, like we've talked about with Canada, it's a process, especially since it's not in the Olympics, and everyone, of course, wants to go to the Olympics, but it's a process. It's building up, going to these tournaments and building and building and building, and be able to do that throughout years and years.
Pinch hitter is Alejandra Casas. Young catcher, had an excellent game today. She's impressed me with her athleticism. She threw 2 darts to throw out 2 Australian runners stealing or trying to earlier today in their win over the Australian A team or development team. So Morgan Rackle has done a nice job in relief. She does give up a bottom of the 6th walk. And that's the pitcher over there, Trevino, I believe. We don't always find ourselves informed of the changes. And it has everything to do with location, as the official scores are down at field level. And they don't always get to our location. A day that began on this diamond at 10:30 this morning with Italy and Japan. And this is Game 5. That's a ground ball, or is it a line drive and a double play? It's a line drive and a double play, and it was close. Grace Mesmer has a strong throwing arm.
And heads up play. She knew she caught that and beamed it over to first. Sometimes you hesitate, wait for the umpire, or even hesitate to kind of compose yourself. But great job, great reaction, getting the ball over to first for a double play.
So Canada 1 out away from guaranteeing themselves a date with Italy tomorrow at 1 o'clock. The winner of that game will face Triple Crown Colorado. And the winner of that game is we'll play 3 tomorrow at 1, 3:30, and 6 to face Japan, who are already in the championship game. Pounded by Alexia Lopez. Doe is right. That was drilled. You don't want to get hit with that. And when we came here this week, Amanda, I thought that would be the 4 remaining teams come Sunday. And now it's official. It is. Canada had a stumble. Jumped out to a 8-0 lead, gave up a 4 spot, and then 2 in the following inning really helped them regain control and command. And they will face Italy tomorrow at 1 in the Canada Cup's version of the Final 4. That's how many teams remain in the quest for the 2023 Canada Cup title. For Amanda Fama, Luciano Lafrano, and his lovely wife, who has just stood for about 16 hours straight on the camera, thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow on the final day, Championship Fun Sunday, and it will be Fun Day on a Sunday. Time for me to call it a night. Good night, everybody, from Surrey.
For the latest in softball innovation, the website where you can experience the best tournaments in the Americas.
Live games, news, tournaments, and much, much more.
The best quality live softball, on demand so you can watch when you want. Become a premier member now.